Alrighty, let's have our first pair of today. I'm so sorry, I've been preoccupied, I've been traveling and doing things for my family the whole day. But either way, I am at a complete stop right now. So we're going to start today off with GBP USD, okay? Excuse me. Now I picked the pairs. I picked the pairs. It's okay. Maple butter, please. So I picked the pairs so we can enter in the US session, alright? So these just monitor for the US session opening. Excuse me. So for GU, we have our sell zone up here and our buy zone down here. So our sell zone is an engulfing buy that failed over here. Price came back, created an engulfing sell within the zone. Then now it's retesting the key level. Okay. Then we have our buy zone down here, which is a fresh engulfing failed zone. Excuse me, with an EMA crossing of these two lines, my yellow and my blue. This is my 12 and 24. So we have that. Current price is over here. So what can GBP USD do? GBP USD can either, if it decides to respect on H4 during the US session, if H4 still respects our sell zone, then potentially it can drop back down. But if it breaks the zone, then it potentially might want to test a higher zone. Okay, so which zone that it could probably test would be around here, right? Because this is an engulfing fail, engulfing fail. Excuse me. This is also an engulfing fail because if we drag it out, they're all engulfing buys that failed over here. Okay. So that's for GBP USD if it decides to break the zone. Those are the upper zones that can test for a sell back down. After breaking it, the price can shoot upwards into the higher zone or retrace back into the key level for a better buy out, vice versa. If it decides to, just drop in one, go into our buy zone and respects it, then potentially we can catch a buy back up. But if it breaks below, then potentially it might want to test a lower zone. Where? Over here. Right, because we have an engulfing sell that failed on this. Price came back, created an engulfing buy over here, and another engulfing buy over here. So we have a complete setup for a buy on H4 in the lower area. So if it decides to break this zone right here, then potentially it might want to test this complete setup. Okay, so that's for H4. Where do you monitor your entries? Again, M5 or M15 for any entries. Okay, don't mind the red zone. This is my daily zone. Let's check EG. Okay, I've particularly picked pairs that the current price is within the zone, so we can monitor for the US session for any entries. So EJ, our sell zone and our buy zone. Sell zone and engulfing buy that failed. In the process of failing, this is very subjective. Either you can take the doji candle as the first engulfing sell over here, or it can just be a continuation of the engulfing fail. Okay, so it's very subjective. When price came back, it created another engulfing sell over here. So current price is testing the key level. Excuse me. And then we have our buy zone down here, which is an engulfing sell that failed. And I also picked this zone because it is just right above the crossing of the 3 EMAs. Alright, other than that, it would just be this engulfing buy that failed once or twice. So it could be potentially a hidden engulfing in the future, but that is not confirmed. So hence, I'm going to go with a valid setup because it is yet to be broken. Current price is in the sell zone. So what can EJ do? Excuse me. So if it decides to respect the zone, then potentially on H4, EJ can drop it. If it decides to break above, then potentially it might want to test a higher zone. Vice versa, if it decides to drop into our buy zone and respects it, then potentially it might bounce back up. But if it breaks below, then potentially it might want to test a lower zone. Like this. Where do you place your SLs? Again, after your entry, in between the key levels or around the key levels, you enter after the setup has formed in either M5 or M15. Once that is formed and you press either buy or sell, you count 40 pips from your entry and that would be your SL. Okay. Excuse me. Last but not least, USD CAD. Now we had USD CAD yesterday also, but today is really testing around the key level. So I'm going to use the same zones, same key levels because it is still very much valid. I'm also picking USD CAD because US session will be coming up in a few hours. So potentially the volume from the US session itself will push USD pairs even more. So either it can respect and fly, or drop into this before flying, or decides to just drop all the way down below. Okay, for USD CAD. I'm not gonna explain this because I've already explained USD CAD in yesterday's analysis. Our sell zone and our buy zone down here. We have two key levels in this very big H4 zone. So USD CAD, what can it do? Okay, if it continues to respect, right? I already drew this zone right here. This is an M15 engulfing buy, and it's multiple engulfing buys. So this is going to be the zone that will be my limit. Because if the current price decides to drop down below and break this M15, then I will wait for this key level down here. But on an H4's perspective, if it still respects the buy zone, then potentially it can bounce back up. We either can try to find a buy from here or a buy from this zone. If it decides to drop down all the way below after the US session volumes flows in and H4 closes below, then potentially it might want to test a lower zone. Vice versa, if it decides to just fly into our sell zone and respects it, then potentially we can catch a sell back down. But mind you, it has to break this engulfing sell, this engulfing fail to reach this zone, okay? We have two resistance over here because this has yet to be tested and broken. This is also an engulfing fail that the sellers overcame the buyers. So it has to break these two zones in order to fly all the way up into our sell zone for a better price. Okay? After testing, if it potentially tests our sell zone and breaks above, then potentially it might want to test a higher zone like this. Okay, so that's all the three pairs. Again, I'm so sorry. But these are the pairs. Wait for a US session before you press anything to lower your risk because we need the volume from the US session. So if it does not create any setup, simply don't enter. The price might want to bounce around a little around the key levels to create a setup waiting for the US session to happen. Okay, that's it for the three pairs. Have a nice day, and I'll get back to replying to your messages right now. Bye!